All right, hello everybody. It is Kari, your empowerment coach, teaching people how to take back control of their lives, to live the life they truly want to live. Doing a special 10-week only series where I am inviting real people on to share their stories of how they did exactly that, leading us into the new year, where I've got a bunch of new videos kicked off, lined up, ready to go. I'm going to be starting with a new series on imposter syndrome to get us started in the new year. But for now, we're going to have these special guests come on and share their stories of how they took over their lives and reclaimed control of their lives, and now they're living the life that they want to live. So I'm going to invite my next guest here on to join us.
All right, let's see if Nadia's on here. All right, Nadia, I sent you a request. It should be popping up for you to accept. Let's see here. Hey, there you
Hi.
are. It's always fun to see if we can figure this out. So,
I was
welcome.
trying to do it on my desktop and it wasn't working. I was trying to be
Uh,
clever.
okay. Okay. I was sending out some invites to some other people to join us here, but I know it's late where you are. So, how about you introduce yourself to everybody who's watching live and to who's going to tune in later and watch this?
Oh, let me get rid of my second screen.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so excited. Thank you, Kari, for inviting me. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm Nadia, and I am an executive leadership coach working in the UK, supporting school leaders in the public sector. That's
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So I'm really excited that you're here, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation to do this and to tell everybody your story. I want to, I've been showing people different ways and journeys that people have gone on their lives and kind of how they might have been heading one direction and then made a change here. And I understand that you did something similar. Is that true?
Um, yeah, and I've been thinking about this a little bit since you said you were going to invite me on tonight, and yeah, I moved from being a head teacher. I think you call it principal teacher in America. I moved from being sort of top of my game in education to working independently, completely for myself, being a coach. In the last couple of years, I've been making that transition. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on where you were, like what was life like for you in those moments before you made that decision? Like how did it feel when you were kind of in that space? You were with principal, headmaster, whatever you're calling it, and you still decided to leave that. So what was life like for you in that moment?
Um, it was a crazy time, if I'm honest. I was working probably six full days a week, not seeing much of my family, absolutely wholly committed to improving the school that I was leading. But it was beginning to take its toll. And, this idea of being able to do it for so long, but after 5 6 years it started to take its toll physically and on my health. And so
Mm.
I loved it, and I still look back and love it, but I wasn't able to keep going. I recognize that.
Wow, yeah, and I think so. Basically, you were burned out. Is that what I'm hearing?
I hit a wall quite spectacularly, actually, in the end. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can connect with that too. So then, what was the ultimate deciding factor for you to make a change?
I think I've really thought hard about this, Carrie, and I think there were two or three really big things. Um, I think probably the biggest was that I fractured my spine at work.
Wow.
I pushed a full filing cabinet across my office in an attempt to rearrange things in a frenzy, essentially. And I was in a lot of pain for a long time before anybody worked out what was going on. But I carried on working, and it made the
Oh, wow.
and when I eventually did have surgery, it was quite. I had done a lot of damage, and because I then had to take something like 8 weeks off work, lying flat on my back. I had a about how I got into this position, and I think that was probably the catalyst for thinking about doing things differently.
Yeah, I'm gonna say too, I think a lot of people will connect with like not wanting to take time off, injuring ourselves, being sick, and still feeling that need to show up for work. That's probably something that that's a good message for people to hear too, that sometimes we literally physically work ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane. Yeah. And I think, the two things actually, it was that, but the second thing was I was becoming alcohol dependent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was recognizing that in myself, and it was how I took the edge off. And I think the two things combined, when I was at home recovering from surgery, I realized that I'd got into this awful pattern of kind of drinking alcohol to take the edge off. But what was I taking the edge off of? And, questions came up to me, and that had physical impact on my health. I mean, that alone, I was able to reflect and say, gosh, I'm going into school with a hangover at times. And, what am I doing? This is insane.
Yeah, and feeling like you need to take the edge off from the life that you're living too. That's
because it was insane. Like cooking dinner at midnight, ready for the next day for my kids, and missing things, and starting to just lose myself. I lost myself in my work.
That I connect with that personally too, where you look around one day and you're just like, who is this person? Yeah, who am I? Who's this person? What is this life that I'm living? Yeah. So how did you then, I guess I'm curious though, when you were making that choice, what kind of feelings came up or thoughts came up for you when you were making that decision to make the change?
I think two really big things. One was I wholeheartedly believed in what I was doing professionally. But the question that came up for me was, what am I modeling to new leaders coming through? And is this what it takes? Is this possible? Oh. And I think I'm pretty good. So what about if you're average? Like, these thoughts were going through my
okay. That's interesting. If I'm struggling and I'm pretty good, I love that now. Okay.
I kind of thought, like, what am I colluding with here? This fantasy that this is okay and this is fine, and I don't really want to be a part of that. And then the second thing for me personally was, what am I modelling to my children?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my children are tremendously proud that their mum was a head teacher. I think that it was an exciting time. I had quite a lot of money, but also I had influence in the community. But at the same time, what they saw was me coming home and being, being irrationally irritated. And, I mean, what I'm talking about, Kari, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I think it was my kind of the sense morally of what am I modeling to younger or less experienced new leaders, but also what am I telling my children through this?
Right. And that's really interesting. So then you decided to make this really career jump here, and what was that like for you? I mean, was that scary? Was that exciting? What was going through your head when you decided to make that choice?
Because I think, 25 years I was working in schools, and I think that, it was a big part of my identity, and it still is. And the scary bit for me was not having that identity, like that it wasn't who I was going to be anymore. So
So figuring out who you were going to be outside of that, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Really interesting. How did you work through that?
I've actually, at the beginning, I found it. I mean, I'd go as far as to say I was mourning my old life, but I've started to really, really, really love it. And but I struggled with it. I definitely struggled.
Okay.
Completely, sort of 6 months into that, I decided to apply for another headship and go back to it. Like I had a moment of weakness.
Yep. I think we all kind of reach those points, especially if you're going into entrepreneurship, where you're like, this would just be, I'm just going to go back.
Crazy,
So what do you want to tell people who might be going on a similar journey then about that?
I think that follow your heart, as cliche sounds, and as kind of your heart is right, and actually it's not that hard. It's like if you can be successful in industry or in the public sector, you can probably be successful at anything. That's what I've learned. It's all that tenacity you can apply to making yourself successful, and so you've got all the skills there. If you've been in a position where you've burnt out, it means you know how to drive yourself. So you've got resources to fall back on when you need them. I guess that's what I've learned.
Yeah, so learning how to identify the transferable skills, and not even just the technical ones, but the skills of, you said, your tenacity and your drive. Like those are also skills I think people will often just discard and not even consider. I love that. I'm gonna steal that when I'm talking to people.
Those dark moments where you don't know when next month's mortgage is coming from, you do need that. Hang on a minute. I dealt with the fact that I had 4 teachers on maternity leave. How did I manage that? Okay, I had to think around the problem. And so I definitely draw on it. And it means that I'm not too negative about what I did in the past. It means that I take the good from it. It's quite healing.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a good point too, is not focusing on the negative aspects of, because that's something that our brains tend to like seek out the negative and focus on those. So yeah, I love that. So where are you now in your journey then? Like emotionally and physically, like where would you say you're at now?
So my back is much better.
Oh, good. Great.
I've been kind of on rehab and I'm repairing, and I'm also, because I'm able to choose my working pattern, I'm able to have physiotherapy, I'm doing daily exercise, and those are things that just were not an option in my previous lifestyle. So I'm repairing physically and I'm getting stronger. In terms of where I am emotionally, I guess I'm beginning to feel excited now. The fear is falling away. My business is beginning to work. It's just at the stage where, like, my husband has said to me, "Oh, okay, we've got some money this month. This is good." So, and I can see things on the horizon, So I've held out long enough for referrals to be coming in, things to be kind of gaining momentum, and it's nice. Nice. That's a terrible adjective, but it is.
No, I mean, I think that's great though, if, to find that peace with it and looking forward to it and excitement for it. That's great. Message people need to hear is that attitude towards the future is possible as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess when you were kind of going through all of this journey, though, and making the decision, what would you say was like the most challenging thing for you to overcome through this process?
Probably other people's fears on my behalf, So my family, my partner, my kids. I mean, they've all supported me, but you worry, don't we? All worry because we have our gremlins that we're letting people down. but also what the
Interesting.
world would think of me. Like, I'm sure I have no evidence, but I have emotional belief that peers in teaching must have thought I'd gone insane. I got to the top. I was probably about to be offered, like a regional director role or whatever, was going to come next. And then I bailed. Like, what is wrong with you? And so, kind of just being able to park that and focus on my whys.
Yeah. Man, I'm just like blown away. You have so many good things that you're pointing out here, and that idea that other people are afraid for you, perhaps even giving you fears you didn't even know you needed to worry about.
Yeah, and my mum, it's funny, isn't it? However old we are, our mum is our mum. And she'd say things like, oh, I hope you're going to be able to earn enough money. And, and it's like, obviously, you turn into a teenager again, because it sounds like you're having the same discussion you had when you were talking about, or what part-time job you're going to do. So just being able to stay steady, be the in every conversation, and say, this is a choice I'm making. I'm confident about it. Plan.
Yeah, but money wasn't the driver there, so it wasn't even at the top of your list when you made the choice, right?
Not at all. And I think I panicked about that later. I decided to dive in, do it, and not think too hard, really, when I was ready to go. And then I suddenly realised, oh my gosh, I am going to take a pay cut. But it's now, I'm beginning to recover that. I'm on my way to recovering that difference.
Good. But I think that's something that people get stuck on too, is the money and where's that going to come from sort of thing, and not realizing how powerful it can be to just need to get out of what you're doing and start something over again.
Yeah. And I think, a bit like you, Kari, because we've spoken about this before, I started to build the idea up in the background while working.
Mm-hmm.
I did my coach training. It was something I was very passionate about, and I do think it's a different service to the same industry that I'm very, very, very fond of and very passionate about. And I started to kind of develop models of what it might look like. But when the moment came, and I went. And I didn't really know that I was going to do it that dramatically, I think.
Yeah. But
then the realization of money settles in. But funny enough, if you believe in something, it all works out. It just, and I had to be brave. Like, I did a bit of substitute teaching, which is like, honestly, was like, what am I, like, I went to my local village school to like grade 4. And I probably the best substitute teacher they have ever had. But today I was like rewriting their development plan for them, all for £100, but you just like, I've got to make an extra £500 this month, so I'm going to do a bit but actually lots of amazing things have come out of doing that. It's quite humbling, it's quite liberating to just go and make a teacher, and it's networking. There's opportunity for everything.
Yeah, and it's almost kind of like you're reconnecting with the things that you loved about it 20 years ago, right? Yeah,
and also it helped shed that kind of that sort of power feeling of I need to be the head teacher. I just shedded it. No, I don't need to be the head teacher. I need to put my food on the table actually this month. That's what I need to do. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that too. That mindset shift from chasing the title and that and the glory to just like taking care of yourself and your family.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that too, man. Good. Oh, good stuff. I'm trying to take notes over here while we talk so I can. Well, I'm going to play it back, but I want to make sure that I can grab some highlights for people to know what they're missing out on. So many good things here. But so how would you say then you're feeling now compared to where you were before you made this leap, like with the way that you're thinking about your life?
Interestingly, I met one of my old colleagues for a coffee in the middle of the day, and she'd gone part-time, and we both sort of made a bit of a shift. Anyway, I was saying to her, it's revolutionized my life and my confidence in myself. And I'm so own my decisions in a way that I didn't before. And I feel very proud of myself.
Oh, good.
I go to situations professionally and I don't need the title anymore. I'm not dependent on it for my self-esteem. I don't need people's approval in the same way. So the same people that I was trying to get promotions with, I'm pitching for coaching work with. And it's a really different dynamic, really different relationship, and they can take it or leave it. This is what's on offer.
Yeah.
And that's really nice. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great. How would you say you kind of helped in making that shift, though? What was kind of a big thing, maybe something that you told yourself, a motto, or just what was?
I think I did a couple of things, but one of them, and I always say that I do this work with all of my coaching clients, whatever they come to me, is having my my core purpose. What do I believe? And, you know, I want to contribute to something bigger than myself. That is really important. But also caring for my health has become a key priority for me, where it never was before. Like I'm one of these annoying women who never puts on weight. So I could put anything on and I'm really thin. Actually, that's fine until you get your 40s. And then it starts having, you know, a different impact on you, that you need vegetables. But I didn't have time to cook vegetables. So I shifted I really did some deep work on what do I value and what do I want and what do I want for my family. And I hold tight to those all the time. So I have, you know, 5 or 6 sort of statements that I remind myself of all the time. And I get courage from that, you know. I take.
Is there one that you can share with us that's maybe a?
Yeah, so I've got in fact, I've got it framed on the wall behind me. I'll grab it.
Okay. I love that. I always like to keep my inspiring things visual as well.
So I've got spend time with those you love, embrace challenge, put your passion center stage, care for your body, make time for silence, visit beautiful places, and believe in something bigger than yourself.
Love that.
Yeah. So
I love that.
And so when I had doubts, I came back to, is the doubt because I'm not being aligned, or is it because of an old story that I used to tell myself? And, you know, I'm happy with, as long as it's aligned with those things. And that, I spent a long time working on those, and that helped.
I was going to say, did you come up with those yourself?
Yeah.
I
spent a long.
That's great. And I think that's something that people need to hear too, is that you can come up with your own motivational quotes, you know, what works for you.
Also, who do you want to be? You know, I mean, I'm a fan of Stephen Covey, and lots of people, it frightens them, this idea of when you die, what would you want people to say about your life? Really inspired me.
Yeah, and I use that in my coaching as well. Like, kind of, what do you want your legacy to be? Or, you know, what impact do you want to have when people say, oh, this person was phenomenal. Like, this is the thing I remember them for, that one thing. What is that? And that gets people a lot, where they're like, oh, I've never thought of that before.
Don't you, Kari? You kind of look at that and you go, do I want to be the person that never, ever went to one of my children's class assemblies because I was chasing my career? Or do I want to be the person that had a heart attack in their 50s because they ate junk food because they had no time? And those were the things for me, health-wise, that I was beginning to think, why am I here? And what have I been put here to do? And I did some deep work on that, and that has held me. That's kind of been my anchor throughout this journey, really.
Yeah, and that's a shift too, from you taking control and saying, why am I here, versus how do I survive this life, right? That's shifting to actually find a purpose for living this life instead of just getting through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess when you ask me what do I look back on and compare, I feel like I'm in charge of my life. And in fact, I said to a client today, when it's hard for me, when I have that difficult moments, I say to myself, remember, you chose this. You chose
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the difficulty that comes with it is yours. It's not somebody else imposing it on you. You're imposing it. That helps me sort of man up to it, you know. And
Yeah.
it's very different to dealing with a difficult boss.
Right. Yeah, and even it's interesting though, because we might think when you were like climbing that ladder up the edge, you might have thought then that you were choosing that. Would you say that now though, looking back, or does it?
I think I was driving myself on a path that I perceived to be the right path, because it would impress people, because it would give me a badge of honor, because it was noble, because it would make my mum proud, because
so many external reasons for doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. But in the end, and it's a good cause, so it does look like it's justified and noble and all those things. But in the end, when the cost is too high for you, there is no point.
I mean, we could end right there. That's a great. I mean, it's a great thing, right? And for people, it's figuring out what that cost is, though.
Yeah.
And that's going to be different for everybody.
Of course. And your breaking is different as well. Everybody's breaking is different.
Exactly. Yeah. So what would you say to people then who might be thinking about making a big change for themselves, and perhaps they're scared or they're not sure what to do at this point? What would you say to them if they're questioning?
I'd say that the beauty in life comes from facing your fears. That is, if you miss on that opportunity, you're missing on really living.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard thing, I think, for people to swallow, is like, what do you mean facing my fears? That's literally, you're telling me that's going to be scary. So how can that be beautiful? But, you know, at the other end, what's on the other side of those fears, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's turning into that and asking what it's telling you. And you know, it's about building a bit of love of yourself and building that relationship with yourself so you can be a better person around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. So any final thought? I mean, really, this was so good. I'm going to like take my notes here, get this posted for people. I know that it's late for you where you are, so I appreciate you sharing your story. But do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to leave anybody with in terms of just go with this?
I would wholeheartedly say, if you are considering a change because you are burnt out or about to hit a wall, do not hesitate. Just go with it, follow your heart, absolutely commit yourself to it and hold yourself to it, and it's liberating, and life becomes better. I
second that 100%. So I want to give you a chance now then, because you are doing your own coaching business, to promote away, tell everybody what you do, how they can contact you, whatever you want to say, take the time and go ahead and promote away.
Thank you, Kari. So I support school leaders in the UK, but I'm happy to work with anybody who's in education in particular, which is where my area of expertise is. I do a lot of work, instructional coaching, but I also do a lot of leadership coaching, and I do services for schools around coaching in schools for young people. I've got a particular interest in working with people with ADHD, and I really advocate neurodiversity. So that is me. That's what I do. I have various projects going on around that. My website is destinacoaching.co.uk, and I have a blog linked to that. I'd be delighted to continue this discussion with anybody who's interested in getting in touch with me.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. And again, thank you for coming on here and chatting with me and sharing your story with people. And it's so good to see you again. I haven't seen you in months.
Said that meet people like Kari, connect with them and stick together through the journey, because when other people are doing it too, you can cheer each other on. And I think that's really important. These tiny little connections that we make doing what we're doing gives us strength.
And I'm just going to bounce off of that too and say, I have found better connections and more supportive connections on my journey doing this than when I was chasing
Yeah.
You know, it felt much more like competitive, and other people didn't want you to succeed. Whereas when you kind of go off and do your own thing and you meet other people doing it too,
Yeah.
you're
It feels real, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it feels real. And we all want each other to succeed. You
Yeah.
know, we all we all want to see everybody doing well. And I think part of that is that mindset shift that we can all succeed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The other people's success, and that makes your success feel more possible.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love this conversation so much. Thank you again for joining me. I'm so happy that we were able to talk and share this, and I can't wait for other people to see it as well.
Take care of yourself, Kari.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.